Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always is Eric, Nathaniel, and Dennis. What's going on?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the Hello podcast where we say hello for an hour.
Then we discuss the weather.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. It says, hello, how's the weather? Well, it says, hello. Just keep going with it. That'd be all right. That would make me laugh. I would listen to that podcast for.
The formula is you say hello, how's the weather, and then someone says the weather is sunny. Hello, sun, and then you just like loop it around and keep going.
Watched a movie called Hello. Had Channing Tatum and Hello Williams on. I don't know. Bunch of people named Hello.
Yeah, really, that would be hilarious. I'd
Yeah,
watch.
Hello. Is hello here? Hello.
Hello.
Turns into a bad "Who's on first" joke, and then it's like.
What?
For all you young kids out there, look up Abbott and Costello. I mean, no, I don't know what to tell you if you don't know what "Who's on first" is.
It's classic comedy.
Yeah, it is. But young kids don't know that unless it's on the TikTok or the.
Nope.
You say
or the
that like
Instagram.
we were alive with Abbott and Costello or a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Oh, I
We know what it is.
I'm an old soul. That's what I say.
You're not that old, so come on.
I just feel like you're lying if you tell me. Nathaniel,
I mean, if you were around with Abbott and Costello were around, you're looking real good for your age.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. That would be great.
Look, I had dinner with Charlie Chaplin the other week. It's okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
But anyway, we'll talk about what we'll start out talking about what we always do, and that's games. So let's see. Last night, me and Nathaniel and Nikki played Sea of Thieves. I finally introduced Nikki to Sea of Thieves, set her down, and like I'd put in our message group, I did not think about it, but she had never played a first-person shooter or first-person game before, so the whole concept of walk with the left stick and look up and down and left and right with the right, it was very hard for her to pick up at first, but she was doing all right last night. She finally has gotten the swing of it after a couple hours. I mean, it wasn't too bad. The first 20 minutes were kind of funny, but I mean, it was just because I would see her walking and looking straight up in the air and just walk right by me with her character looking up, and I'd be like, wait a minute, no, you got to look. Oh, you walked off the dot. Okay, we'll figure this out. It took a little practice, but she's gotten it better than she did. But yeah, so we played a couple hours of that last night, and me and hers played a couple hours on our own, just kind of getting her a feel of who and what and where. But I think the next time we play, Nathaniel, I think I'm going to try to do a two-boater and then invite the third person in after we load the game in the two-boat and see if we can do three people on a two-boater. Because that boat is too big for 4 people or 3 people. It's just... I do like the small boat better after playing it a little this afternoon, because I tried cloud gaming on the Series X last week or earlier in the week, and it worked really, really well. I just tried some games that I didn't have downloaded, streamed them. It worked perfect. They're not in HDR, but I mean they're still in 4K, and I mean they look and run fine. I didn't have any input lag or anything like that. And then this afternoon I hooked up the Series or the One X upstairs to the TV up there and tried it on that, and it worked perfect on that too. Loaded just as fast as it does on the Series X, because they have all Series X hubs running games on cloud service now, so it loads super fast. Runs at 4K. I seemed like I was getting like 120 frames a minute. I was at least getting 60, because that sucker was whipping around there like nobody's business. It was I wasn't expecting it to move as fast as it did. It took me a minute to kind of acclimate to the streaming and the fast frames per second. But once I did, I mean, it worked. It just worked good. I was really surprised. So from now on, if it's a game that I want to try out, I'm probably not going to download it until after I try it on cloud and then go, I like that game. I'll download it and then play it from there. So, yeah. I mean, now it's like, well, now I got a gaming, I've got a Series X or S upstairs because I've got the cloud gaming on the One X. So
yeah, it's pretty awesome. I've only tried the cloud gaming on mobile so far, not on the console itself. So
well, they just opened it up, I think, this week or last week. It hasn't been on console very, very long because, in fact, I got it and the update to my Xbox controllers the same day. So apparently they've updated the old Xbox controllers with some of the tech from the new Xbox controllers or something.
That's right.
Has to do with latency or something like that. I don't know.
I know it's like one of the big features, I think, is like the I have my Xbox controller here. Like basically, if you double tap the actual like sync button, you can go in between the Bluetooth Xbox and a Bluetooth device. Yeah.
So, that's cool.
Yeah,
without having to hold it and resync it and then find it in the list and go through all that process. So you can just double tap.
Now you don't have to buy two controllers if you don't want to.
Exactly.
Which is cool. Which I just need to find a new Bluetooth adapter. Mine's kind of old and it won't connect the Xbox controllers wirelessly. Not the new Xbox controllers. It'll do the old Xbox controller wirelessly, but it won't do the new for some reason. So I don't know if it's a different frequency or what. It was weird. But I mean, I got to looking back through my history, and this Bluetooth device is or Bluetooth thing for the computer is 7 years old. So it's pretty old for Bluetooth standards. So it's probably time to get another one since they're really not expensive. It's just buy another one. It's fine. The other thing I've played a little bit of Metroid Dread on the Switch. I got it and the OLED system, of course, on Friday because they both shipped together. The game is really cool. I like it a lot. The graphics are awesome. The gameplay is tight. It is hard as snot.
Sounds like it's classic then.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. You've got to be quick, and if you're not super quick, you get killed with one hit. I mean, it's so, it's but I do enjoy it, but it just takes practice, and I just haven't had time to practice because I've been trying to download everything to my new Nintendo Switch. So, but I got the OLED in this week, and I like it. I like it a lot. The screen is for just however much it is, a half inch or a quarter inch or however bigger it is really cool because, I mean, the light's going to hit it, so you're not going to be able to see it real well. But, I mean, you see how big the bezel
I mean, it just feels bigger just because it's taking up more of the space. It doesn't have all that wasted, not wasted, but the extra space around it the original Switch has.
It's actually got a metal bezel around it here, so the outside of the bezel is metal instead of plastic. They redid the grid on the top, so it's the system is a higher quality plastic. I am 99% sure that this kickstand is metal. It sounds like metal, and it's cool to the touch. But it's got these awesome hinges, and the way the light hits it, you can kind of see it right there. It's got these thick hinges. So, I mean, you could get it... way flat.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of resistance to it. So it's not...
Yeah, it doesn't feel anywhere near as flimsy as...
No, it doesn't feel flimsy at all.
Even if it only, kicked out the same way as the original, it's still way better.
Yeah.
And then they went past that, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, they did. The Joy-Cons are on it better. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed when they have it in handheld, but the Joy-Cons are kind of loose. They were on mine. They seemed...
Not on mine. I've got my original launch Switch, and they're pretty tight.
They were not tight on mine. I could actually, when I'm playing it, I could actually bend them a little bit, in the rails.
Yeah, mine doesn't do that.
I don't know if these are just newer rails, or I've heard a lot of other people say, mine are tighter than the other ones because
you just haven't flexed it enough yet to loosen it up, John.
I don't reckon. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like this one will flex very much, but neither did the other one. I don't know. What's funny is this has a screen protector on it out of the box. If you read the instruction manual, it says there is a screen protector on this OLED screen. Do not remove it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because I'm guessing it has something to do with, this is a glass screen instead of a plastic screen. So I'm guessing it's probably more of a protective thing. So if it shatters, it will not bust and fall out. It's, it shatters in that screen protector. So some people were trying to peel that screen protector off. And it's like, no, don't do that. If you crack it, it's going to bust in a bazillion pieces. So I've got a screen protector on top of a screen protector, and I didn't even know it. Which is fine. I mean, I don't care. The minute I took it out of the box, I put a screen protector on it before I even turned it on, and it was on there. My finger never touched the screen. Still has its virtue. Well, I don't know. Anyway, there's something in there. There's a joke in there somewhere. But anyway, the air vents are bigger on the bottom. The sound is a whole lot better on this. It's more clear. It's kind of a little richer and deeper. But it's like a 0.5 millimeter wider on each side. So anything like a grip that you have, it's not going to fit. It's too wide, which really sucks. I don't know why they made it a little bigger, but they did.
Because they put better speakers in. That's why.
I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
I guarantee that's why.
Having
messed around with the insides of a bunch of different laptops and things, and like the different speakers and stuff that get jammed in there, they can be just that much slightly different for better ones.
It's a higher quality plastic. It's just a higher quality built system. It feels more premium than the regular Switch did. And one thing I didn't put in the show notes because I've got to go back and find the story. Someone broke the new dock down. They took it all apart and found out that it actually does 4K 60 in that dock. It's 4K 60 ready, and the HDMI cable came with it is a high-speed HDMI cable, which is different than the HDMI cable that came with the original. So if I had to guess, and this is just me guessing, this was supposed to be a Pro with a different processor to do 4K 60, and because of the chip shortage, they said, let's go ahead and throw it out.
Or just like Bluetooth headsets, they'll activate it later with a patch.
That could be. I mean, it may be. Or it may be something that when they do bring out a Pro, they don't have to have new docks. They already have them. It could be something like that. My only issue with the dock is, I've got two issues with the dock. One, on the inside of the dock is actually wider than the original dock, so it doesn't touch when you slide it down in there, but it will wobble back and forth ever so slightly when you touch it. You can tilt it just a little bit forward or a little bit back. It's like, well, that's weird, because now it makes me feel like I'm going to break this charging port if it's tips just the right way. But it probably won't. But like I said, it does move just a little bit, so it's not going to scratch it when you stick it down in there because it's wider. My other gripe is the wireless LAN the wired LAN they put in that thing stinks. Because like we talked about before the show, and I know me and Nathaniel talked about it last night.
I think that you've got that wrong. It's not that stinks, it's that Nintendo's network stinks, so that the wired connection makes absolutely no difference whatsoever.
It could be, but I hooked up my old dock on Nikki's with a third-party 100 meg LAN port and got faster download speed than I got with the new dock with the built-in LAN port in it by about 20 or 30 megs. And that's the way it was when I used to have it the old one hooked up, because I had a USB dongle, port in there, LAN port. So I don't know, but I'm still...
That's weird, because that technology hasn't really changed that much in years and years and years. So what are they putting in there that would make it slower? That doesn't make any sense.
But, and of course, like I told Dennis before we started recording, when you put the new your SD card from your old system in there, it automatically formats it, so you have to re-download everything on the system again that you want. So,
Come on, slap Nintendo.
I
Come
know.
on.
So I'm still downloading about a quarter of what I have. I'm not downloading everything because I just don't have that kind of time, and I want to
It's
actually
the same
play
system. It makes no sense. Like, come on. Like,
it. Yeah,
what's the point of having the SD cards if they're not a portable thing?
yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. Which means like you can't use multiple. Well, I guess you could use multiple because it locks to the system. So if I wanted to use my 400 gig and pop it in and out, I could. But it's taking it to that other system. That's the problem.
It's just like every way to try and like it's so weird because they have all these things where they'll put out new versions of systems and want people to like buy them, but they make it so hard to get all your stuff
they don't make
to
it,
that new system.
Yeah,
they don't make it easy to swap them.
well, and
get everybody back online.
Well, and what I did with this one, I put both of them together because I kept my old one and transferred everything, all the saves and everything like that, so I wouldn't have to go on the cloud and re-download them. And the only save that, of course, wouldn't transfer over was Animal Crossing. What's funny is if I deleted everything off of that Switch, my Animal Crossing save would have still been locked to that system, even without my profile on there. So I had to download the tool, and it magically pulled my save off of there, even though I didn't have my ID on that other Switch. It was so weird. It was like, okay, well, I've got to be sure to move that. And so if you ever sell your system, be sure to delete your Animal Crossing save, because what will happen is if somebody else puts theirs on there, even if it's formatted and they put Animal Crossing in, they can play your island. Or delete your island and start over. It's so weird. It's like, what are you doing?
There's a lot of things with the Animal Crossing game they did that's weird.
Yeah, it is strange. But I am loving this kickstand. I mean, I can hold it up like this, and it just doesn't. It's amazing.
Yeah, the OLED Switch definitely seems like the version to have if you play handheld a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the screen is beautiful, and I have it set on Vivid. You can actually set it down on standard. Most of the games on Vivid look really good, but there are a couple of games that Vivid might be too much for on a super colorful game. But Virtual Racing was the one that I could tell a big difference in. I turned it on with Vivid, then I turned it off and played it, and you could tell the difference because it was really bright and colorful. But the Vivid looks really good on this. It's the blacks are black. To me it's worth it, but I play handheld 90% of the time. So, and I like the bigger screen because I have poor eyes. So, but setting them side by side, this looks humongous, even though it's really not that much bigger. But it really does. It really looks so much bigger. It just aggravates me that I can't use my fixture grip with my controller. So.
I mean, is it just because it covers over the speakers? You could still attach it, or it just can't attach at all?
It won't attach at all because the whole body is just this much more wider on each side.
Oh, okay.
So, like, even like if I had a switch, like if I had one of those grips and would slide it down there, it wouldn't even fit in the grip. Like I had a plastic cover that I could put on the case, see-through case I could put on this. It wouldn't even fit on it because it was just a slight little bit too far. It wouldn't line up because this is just a tad bit longer. So until fixture like my and I think you got one, Eric, the flip grip
flip grips, yep,
won't work on it, won't fit in there anymore.
Won't fit.
Yeah, so flip grips won't work. So they're fixing a flip grip to do that. Fixture's working on a new one. Satisfy's working on a new grip for theirs. So I just bought these Hori pads until until I can get a fixture. And these things are really nice. I wish they had rumble in them because they feel, for $44, they feel super cheap because they're so light and there's nothing in them. But they work like a dream. They feel like a full-size Pro controller, and they got a D-pad on it. So this will work. Of course, now it's like, well, when you put these on, my case is too small. So now I gotta like throw these in a bag and throw this. It's like maybe it was more trouble than it's really worth to have swapped everything. But
hey, what you got in that hiking backpack? Oh, nothing. Just my Nintendo Switch and 8 billion accessories.
But I mean, they even changed the power button and the volume button. They're even a different button. it's round, and then the ovals for the volume button. It's weird. That's why I really wonder. And the texture is different on the plastic. It just seems like Nintendo went, yep, we're going to do a Pro system, and then all of a sudden went, well, we can't get chips, but we've got all these screens. Let's just slap it out as an OLED model. And I figure what's going to happen is those old models are just going to disappear, and then this will be the new standard. And then in a year, the Pro version will come out, if I had to guess. But I haven't played.
It won't be a year.
You don't think so?
No, because again, chip shortages.
Well,
There's so many
true,
orders for everybody just in tech across the board that things are going to get extended quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, you're
like,
right about
hey,
that.
we wanted to do it here, but we can't, so we'll do it 2 years later than we wanted to, or whatever.
Yeah, but
just depends on what it is.
Yeah, but yeah, and the only reason I put the Zelda grips on here, or Zelda Joy-Cons on here, was because trying to show it off with these other Joy-Cons it makes it look even bigger and bulkier than it really is. I mean, it really does. I don't even understand how these work, because you don't pair them to anything. They're not wireless, but the minute you plug them on the rails, the system recognizes it. It's like, how is that possible? And it works, but if you go into the pair Joy-Cons, they're not there. It's so weird. It's like, well, how do you know?
That's weird.
I don't understand how it works, and I can't find anything that tells me how it works. It's like, how could I go into the controllers and it says there's no controller connected, or Joy-Cons?
It's magic, John. As soon as you question it, they stop working.
Apparently.
Just like if you're a cartoon character, don't look down when you walk off a cliff, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, apparently that's the way it is. But I recommend these Hori grips, though, or these Hori controllers. These are really good, especially if you like it.
That definitely makes it look way longer.
I mean, look how big that thing makes it look. I mean, it makes it look huge. And then you got, it's 3 millimeters longer than the other one anyway. So it's like, you put that on there, and then you put these, you're like, oh my gosh, that thing's huge. But yeah, it makes it look way bigger. Of course, they are bigger. I mean, it's quite a bit size difference, but
at least twice as wide. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it's more like a real controller, and I do like them. So until they bring out a new fixture, this is what I'll use. So no hand cramps. So, but that's all I've been playing. Not a whole lot. I'd hope to play more Metroid, but I haven't because I've been downloading stuff. So, and everybody's like, the battery life is so much better in this. I wouldn't know, because I keep downloading stuff, and it's between downloading stuff and trying to play at the same time, it zaps my battery so quick. It's like, is it more? I don't know. Wait till it's finally done downloading. I got 2 more things that are downloading. Well, 1.5. So once it gets done downloading, we'll actually be able to put it to the test tomorrow and see if it'll actually has a better battery. But other than that, that's all I've been playing. So, Dennis, what have you been playing? You're next on the list, so we'll just go down the list tonight. Oh, I can't hear Dennis. Oh, I can't hear Dennis. Can you guys hear me? Or anybody saying?
Yeah,
I hear you.
Oh, there we go. No, it's me.
Dennis.
It's just me. Never mind. Sorry.
So
all the sound disappeared.
Yeah, I hear Dennis.
It was me.
Okay.
My bad. This is just wire just has a short in it. So when I saw Nathaniel's mouth move, I went, no, wait, it's me.
But yeah, no, been playing a lot of stuff on Game Pass recently, actually. So one of them being Last Stop. Was kind of in the mood lately for this sort of like choose your own adventure sort of game, and so I was like, you know what, man? Like, I know Last Stop came out pretty recently, and I'm a big fan of Annapurna as well. So I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and try this one out.
Is that
it was
the one where you have
good.
3 different people?
Yes.
Okay, I
yes.
played a little bit of that. I think I'm about halfway through it, and then I kind of stopped. I was playing it on cloud gaming on my phone when I was out in hotels. And
it's not long.
No.
Honestly, like all the episodes, like they finish up pretty quick. I think the last episode was probably the longest, but even then, long by how the game kind of carries itself. It was probably only maybe 45 minutes that episode, but then the rest were pretty bite sized. But overall, I mean, it was pretty solid. My girlfriend and I, we played through basically just switched off between characters, and but yeah, there's 3 different characters. One of them is like about this father who sort of switches bodies with his neighbor,
Yeah.
and then another
As you
one.
do.
His young
As
neighbor,
one
by the
does.
way. It's
His young
he's an
neighbor,
older
yeah.
man, and then his neighbor's like really young. So it's like
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
those. It's one of those stories.
yeah.
Good old
And
Freaky
then,
Friday.
And hilarity
oh, yeah.
ensues.
And then another one is just about probably some high school girl, who's meets this random dude who his eyes like glow green basically, and it seems like he's abducting people, and then they catch him, and then like one thing leads to another, they start interrogating him, and then that's kind of like their story with him. And then the third one is about this agent basically, or at least an agent in training, and she's got her own sort of thing going on both personally and professionally, and just trying to balance between her personal and professional lives, and then yeah, and then eventually all of their stories kind of intertwine to some degree. um it was a fine game, but my biggest problem with that game was basically the fact that really the only story that mattered was the one with the father and the neighbor, because the other two, really, by the end of it, without spoiling it, they don't really have a purpose to the bigger picture of it all.
Well, see,
And
I
there's a
figured it was one of those games where at some point, the last chapter, everybody crosses at some point. That's what I
yeah,
figured it was building to.
which is pretty much what happens.
Okay, yeah.
But the end goal for 2 out of the 3 of them, literally, like, there's no climax really. It just kind of they just kind of meet up, and then but yeah, really just the father and the neighbor have like a story that really matters. And honestly, I would have probably much preferred if the game just solely focused on them, just because the other 2 stories, like, while they weren't bad, I think you still could have told that same story, if not in a better sort of format, if it was just the father and the neighbor. Um, but yeah, they all intertwine at some point, and then they all sort of complement each other to a degree. But yeah, it's but the other 2 just don't really feel that important to
That
the
was
overall.
the story that I liked so far, was the dad and the kid and
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
neighbor.
yeah, and they're all good stories for the most part. But the one with the father and the neighbor, it just feels the most, I guess, natural, the most wholesome. It's the probably the one that's the most well written for
Yeah.
sure. The other ones just are kind of sort of cliche to a degree, and yeah, the choices like matter only somewhat slightly, because you can get the bulk of the achievements, I noticed, like in your first playthrough. I think the only thing you'll really miss is maybe like 4 achievements, because really the only true sort of achievement related choices that matter are pretty much going to be the ones closer to the end, because those are the ones that are going to give you very different endings, because each character has 2 choices to choose between, and you can go either left or right, and so on and so forth. So but yeah, overall, not a bad game, and the game does cinematics and gameplay well or not so well, depending on how you look at it. And I say that because, like, when you come out of a cutscene, I can't tell you the amount of times we were playing it and we were like, okay, is anything happening? And then we realized, oh, we can move now.
Right, yeah. It's
It was one of those.
Yeah.
So it was very confusing. So especially with how the cameras were kind of like, sort of, a lot of them were like very much like wide shots and stuff like that. And so it was kind of difficult to tell like when you could move and when you couldn't move, because sometimes you'd have a cutscene go on for like ever, and other times you'd have a lot of gameplay, and it's just like you never knew, it wasn't really balanced in that regard, for better or for worse. So you never really knew when you could move, when you couldn't move. It was, it always went every which way. So but overall, not a bad game. I mean, we had a great time with it, and it was a nice little bite-sized game. Wasn't too long, wasn't too short, didn't overstay its welcome really, and everything felt pretty, seamless from beginning to end. Definitely some plot holes, and again, I feel like only one of the stories really mattered in that game. But overall, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, which, if you own an Xbox or PC, like, why aren't you at this point? Definitely check it out. Annapurna's got a great track record anyway, so it's definitely one that's worth checking out.
I need to
sure.
finish it. I haven't yet, but for
Yeah,
whatever reason. And it's I know I've probably only got an hour left in it, maybe not, maybe an
probably,
hour
yeah,
and
it's
a
not
half.
long.
I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know
yeah,
how many
it's not a long
chapters were each one. 3, 4,
game. 5.
5.
I
Okay,
want to say
and I
5.
think
Yeah.
I'm on 3. I think I'm on 4. I may be on 3 or
Okay.
4. So I
Yeah.
knew I was close to the end. It's one of those ones that I was in the hotel and I'm just like, let me fire it up on the cloud gaming. It seems like it'd be one that would run real good on the
Oh,
cloud.
for sure. Yeah, I can see that being a great cloud game.
Yeah, and it did. I didn't have to worry about I got to shoot this thing real quick, and I got to have
Oh,
hair triggers or anything like that.
yeah.
So.
No, it's very much a very forgiving game. You can't really lose or die, or anything like that. So yeah. But yeah, it wasn't bad. Worth checking out. I mean, yeah, definitely a great cloud game, I would say. And yeah, I mean, I think definitely if you're a fan of those types of games, absolutely worth checking out.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, have been playing also another game on Game Pass. This one came out pretty recently. This one's called Astria Ascending. Been playing that one. Now that one I've been playing all over the place. I played that one on Xbox. I played that one on PC, both via Game Pass, and then I've also been playing it on Switch. Now, reason being is because I actually got a review code for the Switch, but but before that happened, I had downloaded it on Game Pass. I was playing it through via Game Pass on Xbox and PC.
Was that my fault? Was that one of them? Was that one of them?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I can't remember if I gave that to you or not. It was like, that may have been my fault.
So. Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway.
But the game is interesting. The game is interesting because it looks and plays well. I mean, it is a JRPG, but it does things very differently from a more traditional JRPG. Even though it kind of markets itself as such, when you start to play it, you realize it is kind of very different. It's not going to be how we kind of have RPGs now, especially JRPGs, where you're going to have that sort of traditional, sort of more, if not open world, open hub sort of nature. This one, how you kind of travel and traverse the world is as a side scroller, actually. So you're going from left to right. And the combat honestly is very similar to something like, it's like a mix of Octopath Traveler mixed with like Child of Light is kind of the best way to look at the combat. And it's an interesting game. The art style is really nice, like really, really nice. Everything's hand drawn. And but the game itself, the story doesn't really make much sense. And it's starting to become something that I think it's trying to become overly convoluted for literally for the sake of sounding deep and not because it actually is deep.
So what you're saying is it's a JRPG?
Yes, is what I'm saying. Where they just kind of throw random terminology where it's just like, well, you could have just called that an enemy, but sure, let's call that, the Forgotten 3.5, underscore, who done it, something random like that. I don't know. It's like you don't need to overly complicate. It's an enemy. Just leave it at that. Like you don't need to, do stuff like that. But it's interesting the way it carries itself. It definitely, I mean, to no one's surprise, it definitely plays the best on PC because it's a Unity game. It tends to have the engine itself has optimization issues on the Series S, which is what I've been playing it on Xbox, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the Switch, it runs, fine. I mean, even on PC, there's no graphics settings. Like the game itself is, chances are, if you have something that turns on, you can play it. So it's not asking much of you. Like there literally is there are no graphic options at all. But just because it's Unity, and unfortunately it does kind of suffer from that sort of Unity curse where you do kind of have those random sort of, it's not often, but you definitely notice it if you're looking out for it, or when things all of a sudden become jarring, where you do have those sudden stutters and things like that. But thankfully, because it is a turn-based RPG, you don't have to worry about, if something does stutter, you don't have to worry too much about like, oh my god, like, or am I gonna, miss this move, or is there gonna be like a cheap shot out of nowhere, anything like that. But overall, I mean, the game is interesting. And for a game that's only about $30, I think it's $30 or $35. I mean, you're looking at over like $50. Sorry, $50, over 50 hours of content, and
$50
it,
worth of content.
yeah, $50 worth of content. So you kind of net about $20 when you buy the game. But yeah, no, I mean the game itself. I mean, it's fine if you're looking for more of a budget-friendly RPG. It might be up your alley, but again, it don't kind of go in expecting your sort of typical like tropes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It does things definitely differently. It's gonna feel familiar, but both unfamiliar at the same time, which isn't a bad thing because I always appreciate when games try to do something new.
Right.
But I'm just still waiting for that point where I feel like there's a purpose to what I'm doing. Right now, it just seems like let's just get a bunch of warriors together and fight evil and defend this town, this city, just because that's
Just
what your
'cause.
job
Yeah.
describes, and and then that's it, and we'll just have a bunch of micro stories in the meantime. But just seems, again, still waiting for that, that grip, which
Yeah.
hasn't happened yet. Hasn't really necessarily been captivating yet. But yeah, if you want a budget friendly JRPG, again, it's not it's not bad so far. And again, if you have Game Pass, may as well check it out. It's there for you to check out. So
Yeah.
if you're in the mood for it. So but yeah. Now one game I forgot to actually write down here, speaking of Game Pass, and because I know I didn't mention any horror games last time, and that became problematic and worrisome to some. But I can assure everyone that the horror has come back with Visage. I did play or Visage, whatever people want to call it. I did play that last year actually when it came out
Yeah.
on PC, and like the day it came out of early access, and it was awesome. The game is hard though. The game is hard. It's super scary. Everything kind of happens very naturally because a lot of the paranormal events are randomized. Now, when I played it on PC, it was incredible, but the chapter that I did was hard. I mean, like I reached a puzzle where all of a sudden, like you were pretty much trying to crack the Da Vinci Code, and I couldn't do it. This is coming from someone who loves horror puzzle games and just puzzle games in general. But since it came out on Game Pass within the last couple of days, I've been wanting to play it again, so we got it downloaded, and then my girlfriend and I played a chapter called Rakans, I think that's what his name is, because you play like 3 or 4 different chapters within the game, and this one I hadn't played before. Now this one,
oh, he froze.
we actually did beat, which was awesome, and it was super scary.
You're fine. You froze for a second.
good?
You're fine. You're good now.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
okay. But yeah, like this one was, but this one was actually like super scary, and we beat the chapter, so it was nice actually finally seeing an ending for that game. But there are like 3 or 4 chapters that you can go through within the game, and again, if you're not someone who is familiar with horror puzzle games or just horror games in general or survival horror games, like this is one that's very atmospheric, but it's gonna require some sort of patience from you, because this isn't going to be something where you can just walk through it. Like you will have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to be attentive to the items that you're holding. You have a sanity meter, which, like, if you stay in the dark too long, you start to go crazy. Paranormal events happen more often, some even potentially lethal. You can't just, it's one of those games where they don't allow you to stop and take a breather, because if you do, they're going to be like, oh, you're not moving? Oh, okay. Lights are going to turn off, light bulb explodes, TV turns on all of a sudden, doors start slamming out of nowhere. Like, even you don't have to interact with anything. Like, the game will throw stuff at you if it feels you're not being scared enough. So and it's crazy. It's just really smart and clever how it's designed, and being a sort of obvious PT inspired game, they really nailed just about everything that made PT so great. Now again, nothing's gonna, to me, exceed PT so far. I hope something does at some point, but it's close. And if you're someone like me who's been wishing that PT did become a thing, inevitably the Silent Hills that never came to be, Visage or Visage is going to be something that you most definitely want to check out. And again, it's on Game Pass now, so why not do yourself a favor, check it
I'll
out.
have to check that out.
Yeah, it's the fun one, especially once you turn the lights off. It's it's crazy from there. So runs beautifully too on the Series S. Oh my god, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So but yeah. And in addition to that, actually, we got this one in for review. And because we got it in for review, I started playing the one prior to that as well, just because I wanted to kind of revisit it and see what the differences were and whatnot. You know, I like doing research whenever I review games as well. So, but have been playing Mary Skelter Finale, which I'm not sure if that's up on the site yet, John. Do you know?
Yeah, I just put it up yesterday.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I won't go like too deep into it, but definitely check out the review at thegamerslounge.com if you want to go more in depth with it. But Mary Skelter Finale is more Mary Skelter. I mean, they didn't really do anything new with this one. The first one, which was called Mary Skelter Nightmares, Mary Skelter 2, and now Mary Skelter Finale, they all more or less have the same formula. The only thing that really changes between them, honestly, is like the user interface. Otherwise, like it's
Pretty much the same
essentially
thing.
You're right.
yeah, which isn't a bad thing, you know, but they're very serialized. So if you want to jump into Mary Skelter, you know, Finale has this cool thing called Before Story. So if you don't really want to play Mary Skelter Nightmares or Mary Skelter 2, you can at least invest some time into Mary Skelter Finale with its Before Story mode, which basically catches you up on 1 and 2. Now the problem is, well, it's not really a problem. It depends on how you look at it, but it takes you through basically every scene in every chapter of 1 and 2. Now, mind you, so the only thing you're not doing basically in the Before Story is playing the fights or doing the dungeons. Otherwise, you can literally see frame for frame every cutscene, every dialogue exchange from 1 and 2. So, and that's fine, but you have to remember that these are 50+ hour games, so that they're condensing now into, you know, you're still going to spend a couple hours before you actually, you know, finally jump into. Before you finally press new game, you're going to have to spend at least still 5 or 6 hours, probably 3 hours a piece, you know, just reading these dialogue exchanges, so on and so forth, if not more so.
Right.
You know, so, you know, how much you're willing to, you know, forgive or, you know, be sort of oblivious to, that's up to you. If you want to just jump in and press new game, sure, go for it. You know, the game, once you start the game, has a tutorial that kind of walks you through the whole thing. It's the same tutorial that it's always been since the first one, where you play and control these blood maidens, and they all have fairy tale names, right? So you have your Snow White, you have your you know, you have your all those other, you know, fairy tales and stuff like that. So your Robin Hood and things like that. So uh, and basically they're called blood maidens because they eventually turn into these sort of vampire-esque sort of creatures that after you kill enough enemies, you know, blood splatters everywhere, and then if they get enough on them, then they can power up into these super powerful beings briefly in the middle of combat, and you just start dishing out insane damage. So, and then yeah, that's more or less the gimmick of that game, and the dungeon design is still as beautiful as ever in Mary Skelter Finale, which is honestly the biggest draw for me in Mary Skelter. Is like, even though the story can get a little convoluted and dense, the dungeon design is fantastic. Like, the dungeons are unlike anything I've ever seen in a dungeon crawler before, and they're arguably some of the best. But yeah, Mary Skelter Finale, or Mary Skelter as a whole, is a very serialized series. So it's not very accessible for those that want to jump into this one without having played the other two. Again, you can, and they do sort of accommodate for that by giving you that Before Story mode. But remember, you're going to have to spend a couple hours before you actually hit that new game finally. Now, the cool thing about this is also packaged with a sort of side game called Mary Skelter Locked in Love, and they put in quotations True End, which was this sort of expansion / DLC that was in Japan, and so now it's, you know, part of the package for Mary Skelter Finale in the West. And yeah, it's just a visual novel sort of prequel, more like a romantic visual novel, and yeah, so you just go to like a beach basically and just spend time with the Blood Maidens before all the crazy nonsense happens, because Mary Skelter is about this fictional place, obviously, called, you know, the jail, and your nightmares basically come to life, and people, it's a very gruesome, brutal, grotesque place where things happen. But because of that, because of this place called the jail, where all your nightmares come true, like the enemy design is fantastic as well, and that's like a big thing. Like the actual like gameplay and the environments of it are really fantastic. But my biggest complaint, which has been consistent throughout this whole series, has been basically it literally took me about over an hour of the visual novel segment before I could actually like jump into the game, which isn't a problem. I'm someone who loves visual novels, so a lot of dialogue, not a problem for me. My problem is, however, is you cannot save until you get into a dungeon, and even when you get into the dungeon, you still have to go to a specific part of a dungeon where you see like a little tent icon, and it's like, look, man, you have to be number one. Pacing is a big thing for me in games, but number two, like, don't keep that option away from me. Like, if I need to save because I got to go somewhere else, or maybe the battery's about to die, or if I'm in handheld mode, or maybe I just want to play something else, I'm just like, okay, that was cool. All right, 30 minutes of this, let me go jump into 30 minutes of that before I go to sleep or whatever. You gotta be accommodating for that. Like, you have to be accessible for people's schedules and stuff like that. But like, literally, there's no way to save, and that's been the biggest problem throughout this whole series. And Compile Heart tends to do that a lot with their games, and it drives me crazy. And I love Compile Heart, I really do. Compile Heart and Idea Factory, some of my favorites. But man, like, please, just simple quality of life things, go a long way.
Right.
Long way. Like, why are you making it so difficult to just save in the middle of a dialogue exchange? This should not be a problem. This has been a thing that's been done in visual novels forever. So this isn't new. But yeah, all you do when you press pause is it just says it's paused. That's it. Like, that's it, and it drives me crazy. Stop it. Don't do it. It's terrible. If I want to save, let me save. If you want to make the dungeons a little more difficult where you can only save during certain areas, fine, whatever. I've played plenty of those types of games before. But if you're going to spend literally 1 to 2 hours in a visual novel portion and I still can't save, that's problematic. Just because it makes it a lot more palatable if you just allow people to save and pick up where they left off when they want. Again, if you want to put it in particular places in a dungeon, fine, totally fine, because the save points in certain dungeons, they do replenish your health and stuff like that. So fine, you kind of reward the player of just like, hey, look, you made it here, now you can save as well. That's fine. That's fine. There's been plenty of games that have done that for like ever now. That's fine. But again, we're spending 1 to 2 hours on a visual novel segment of this game that's considered a dungeon crawler more than anything else. Please let me say, why are you punishing me by going through something that I cannot skip either? It's like, please, just, you can fast forward, but that's as far as that goes. So and it becomes very problematic in a lot of ways that way. So yeah, but yeah, that's basically what I've been playing lately.
Cool. Nathaniel, go ahead. You're next on the list. I had to see who was next on the list. I didn't have the list pulled up. So
You'd be able to figure it out by now. I don't think we've changed the order.
I don't think we have either.
we just bounce around in the show, but as far as the show notes go, I think they've been in the same order for forever.
Yeah, they have. No, I'm discombobulated from the stream because it was messed up there for a little while, so I'm trying to get it back up for some reason. So I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I wasn't paying attention to where we were at. So but go ahead, Nathaniel.
Anyway. I've been playing a few different things. I played we'll start with the Wavelengths DLC for Life is Strange True Colors. It's awesome. If you don't like Steph, then it wouldn't be awesome, but whoever doesn't like Steph just shouldn't exist in this planet, so everyone loves Steph, in my mind.
Whoever doesn't like Steph is wrong.
Steph is great, especially in like True Colors where she gets to stick around for more than just a tiny portion of the game.
Yeah.
So, like, she's great. So, like, the Wavelengths DLC is Steph before the events of True Colors. It's like, and it happens over kind of like the time period of a year. Yeah. So, it's all set within the record store / radio station part of the game. So, you don't get to, like, leave there. You get to just, like, do stuff in the actual booth. You're inside the booth and you're, like, answering calls and playing songs and doing banter on the radio and doing ad reads, which sounds kind of like like that was your job for a game. It's pretty fun. It's in first person too when you're sitting in the booth, so you can like look around at stuff. So when she's talking, you can like fling things at the bulletin board and tap your bobblehead and all sorts of weird fidgety stuff. And like the dialogue is written so well. It's all really, really like super fun stuff. But it happens in like seasons, so I think it starts. I can't remember if it's like spring or summer, but it's like spring, summer, fall, and winter. Kind of like it goes through over like a time period of like a year. So it's starting out when she just starts at the record store as her new job, and then like gets more comfortable with it as it goes. And there's some fun story stuff that like kind of learning like kind of just like how she came there and like her mindset and stuff before True Colors actually happens. And it also ties back into the first Life is Strange game. So like when you boot it up, the first thing that happens when you click on it in the menu is it says something about like spoilers for Life is Strange 1, and you're like, okay, and then you click it and it's like, here, what was your final choice in Life is Strange 1? This or that?
Oh.
And at first I'm like, okay, that's weird. And so you're playing for quite a while, and then you hit like the third season, I think it is, or something, where like either way, whatever happens at the end of Life is Strange 1, whichever choice you make, it impacts Steph, since she's from Arcadia Bay. And you don't really think about that because she was in Before the Storm, but you don't, since she wasn't actually in the first game, you don't necessarily think that. But oh wait, she would have been a character that would have been around then somewhere, right? Or at least known people in the town. So either way, it kind of like ties in. She has a little bit of like just like PTSD type stuff, or just like other things depending on which choice you're talking about. And it ties in there, and she's like, when it's like that time of year, basically, it's like, oh, she's having a tough time because this is when these events happened in the first game. And either one, it's like some sort of like traumatic type thing. It's just the flavor of what events are different depending on what ending of Life is Strange 1 you had. Right. It's not like it's reading a save. It's literally a binary choice when you start the DLC. It's like, did you do this or did you do that? It's like, all right, I did this. So the fun part is like you start in the booth each season, and you have to you have like some tasks, or like you have to answer at least 2 calls, and you have to read 3 ads on the air, whatever. And you can let it play like the auto playlist that it has off of the computer, or you also have records that you can queue up on the side if you don't like that music. And then like you also have tasks to do in the store, so like go up here and put like new stuff out and things. But it's all the fun stuff that Life is Strange does of, hey, what's all these fun little items around that you can click on and get cool dialogue about? And then they just do a really good story, or a good way of telling a story in kind of one location, since it's all kind of restricted because it's DLC and they're keeping the scope down. Steph's the only character you see, but they do have other characters talk to you over the radio when they call in and stuff like that. So it was kind of smart. You get to see the back room of the shop, which you don't get to see in True Colors, which is kind of fun. Yeah, it was really fun playing as Steph. She's an awesome character. And it's like a lot of people love her from Before the Storm, even though she's not in it that much. And so they brought her back for True Colors, and then when they were working on that, you're like, what do we want to do for DLC? I know, let's do an all Steph DLC.
It's a smart move.
And it's great. Yeah. It was really good. So if you like Life is Strange, and you can even start there because it's technically happens before True Colors. So if you wanted to start with the Steph DLC first, it would probably work. I don't think that there's not really anything spoilery in there for the True Colors game itself.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of like ends where it's like there's a slight overlap with like the beginning of True Colors. So you're like, oh hey, we're here now, because it's kind of like tying in to be like, oh, if you've played True Colors first, like anyone now probably would have, because they would have played the game before the DLC came out, since it was 3 weeks later, I think, in between those release dates. So it's like, oh, hey, okay, this is where it connects. Yeah, that game is awesome. True Colors now, I think, is tied with the first game for me. It's really, really good. Yeah. And even if nothing, it's absolutely the best Life is Strange game from a technical perspective, just from the performance capture and that they were able to get with just the facial animations and even body language and all the like. Life is Strange has always been about like the emotions and characters and communicating stories that way, and this one just gave them way more tools to do that, to where you can have a character silently mouth words to another character and understand what they're actually saying, which They wouldn't have had the fidelity to do that in the earlier games. So just all of that stuff on a technical level, and plus just the way it looks, it's the prettiest one. It's so good.
I want to get it on Xbox.
It loses some of that style. So I went back and played Before the Storm because I was like, I want to play the game that Steph was in first. Even though she's kind of barely in it, she has one of the best parts of it. And so I played all through all of that, and I was remembering like, oh yeah, they have a little bit more stylized look to the first couple Life is Strange games, that they kind of like went a different way with it, to where like with True Colors, it's a lot more realistic in quotes. Like it's still very much an kind of illustrated style. It's just the fidelity is way higher to where you actually can read things on the wall, and it's not just kind of like an impressionist kind of painting, drawing, illustrated look like the first couple games had. There's nothing wrong. It's just kind of that's how the series kind of evolved over time. But yeah, I played Before the Storm. I've done all the 3 main episodes that has part of that game, and then I'll have to go back and do the bonus episode because it's really good too.
Yeah.
And replaying that is like, yeah, okay, it's really, really good. There's some awesome stuff in it. There's some stuff in there that was less successful, but it's still way better in my mind of a story than, again, Life is Strange 2. I sound so down on it whenever I talk about it. It's like, I enjoyed that one a lot too. It's just the story they decided to tell really hurts what Life is Strange is really good at, where you have a lot of characters that you're interacting with, and if you like kneecap that by saying, hey, we're in a different location every single episode of the story, you don't get to have that ongoing kind of thing of seeing how characters change other than the 2 main characters. Life is Strange 2 is pretty much just like, yeah, no, here's some new people in this episode, here's some new people in that episode. You might get a little bit of dialogue like, hey, I wonder what happened to so-and-so, but it's not the same as being in a place and living with those characters over the whole story. I just enjoy that more, that style of story in these games more. So I think that's part of why like True Colors I really, really enjoy too, because like the main character, they nailed it. Like you fall in love with Alex like almost immediately. It's so good.
Yeah, I want to play it. Thing is, if I play it, I'll play it on Xbox, and with it not being 60 frames a second on Xbox, it's like
it still doesn't make sense to me.
Just play it. It's a little bit like, but play it. It's worth playing.
All right.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And, if you haven't played Before the Storm either, it's also really good. It's like, all the Life is Strange games are good, so like ranking them is more like, I'm ranking a bunch of them, but then it's like, yeah, they're all still really good. So
right.
Play them all if you like them. And that's a fun thing too about the series. If you like look into it with like other people who've played them, talk about it, or read reviews, watch people's reactions, playthroughs of them. A lot of people have different ones where every single one of the games of the series is somebody's favorite.
Yeah,
which is awesome because it's just the story they're telling will hit different with different people. So I hope that they keep doing this game series for as long as they can, because they've yet to screw it up. So keep going. Keep going until you screw it up, and even if you do, come back and try it again, because maybe you won't screw it up after that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also played Alan Wake Remastered on the Series X.
Oh, have you? Well, that's great.
It's Alan Wake.
I wished I had played it since I pre-ordered it, a week ago, and then went to GameStop on Tuesday to pick it up, and they didn't have a copy, and they still haven't got a copy of it yet. So here we are.
That's what you get for pre-ordering or something. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make.
That's
any
what you
sense
get
at
for
all.
pre-ordering from GameStop.
I guess that's it. So,
that's the important part.
They had 2 drawers of Far Cry 6, but they did not have 1 copy of Alan Wake on PS5, Series X, or PS4, or anything. So it's like, all right, and they're like, oh, can you tell me when it's coming in? We don't know. We'll call you when it gets here. What kind of answer is that? I can order it on your website and have it here in 4 days. Or less, but you can't.
Well,
tell
that's
me
the
when
point where you
just
if it's like that, you cancel that pre-order and you just order it then anyway, because otherwise, what's the point of waiting on that first one?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not in by tomorrow, if it's not in by the time I get back from my trip on Wednesday, I'm just going to say cancel that pre-order, put it on a gift card, and I'll go on and because I paid for it in full, and I'll just go order it online and get it, because I wanted to play that, especially in October. So. But whatever.
So yeah, it's kind of like
But anyway, so
playing Alan Wake Remastered is kind of like, oh yeah, this is what this game was like, right? And then it's the thing where you look at what it actually looked like back then. You're like, oh, okay. It's like one of the things where it's like, oh, this just looks like they didn't change much. Oh, they actually did upres and do a lot of changes to it. The weirdest thing is Alan Wake himself looks not the same because they added fidelity, which is fine, but I kind of like the weird janky look of Alan Wake from the original game. It adds a little to the charm, but it's not like it's a bad thing.
right.
He's still a little bit janky because it's just like it's an old game regardless. They just kind of up-resed it some a little bit so that it outputs better, but they don't necessarily make it look like a modern game or anything. It's not a remake. So yeah, it's still Alan Wake. I've played through, let's see, I played through 2 of the chapters so far. So I'm all the way up through, because I'm trying to remember where I left off. It was like right before you enter a trailer park in the daytime, which is the start of chapter 3.
And it's just a remake of the first game, right? Not the sequel.
Yeah, it's not the downloadable Alan Wake Nightmare. It's not in it. I think it does have the DLC from the first game, though. I'm pretty sure. I haven't got that far, but I'm assuming it'd be in there. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
I'll be disappointed if it's not, because the DLC for Alan Wake is some of the best stuff. Both episodes of that were really cool.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, like, it's a fun game. He's very much more of an angry jerk than I remembered, at least early in the game. Because the first parts of the game, I have like the vague memories of like, oh, here's you like arriving in the town on the ferry and a couple other bits, but a lot of the details are kind of just like, whatever. I remember a lot more stuff from like the 3rd chapter onwards. Because those are my favorite parts of the game, so that's the ones that have just stuck in my head.
Right.
Or a lot of the little Night Springs little TV things. I remember those because they're just fun. But you're still like, it's all fun how it's set up because it's all episodic, even though it was never an episodic game. They just broke it up like it was a TV show, and then they have previously on Alan Wake, and when they start a new episode. But each episode is like, here's stuff happening during the day. And then something happens where now it's nighttime, whether you get knocked out and you wake up at night, or just time passes and now it's nighttime. And then you have like the nighttime section of the chapter. And during the day, it's all the weird, creepy, hey, here's the goofy townsfolk that are a little off because this is very much we're riffing on Twin Peaks. And then you have all of the kind of like voiceovers and stuff from Alan himself are very much like, hey, what if Stephen King wrote this? And there's some other stuff like Twilight Zone things, influences all through there. But yeah, especially with the pages you pick up, if you actually look at them and listen to the voiceover reading them from Alan Wake reading his own pages, it's very much Stephen King style of writing for sure. So you could tell it just wears its influences on its sleeve and says, that's fine. Yeah. We like these things, so we're trying to just like say, hey, yeah, we're gonna do a game about these things. If we could have been calling it Stephen King instead of Alan Wake. It's Stephen King.
Yeah.
That would have been weird, but I think Stephen King would have been into it because he likes his meta stuff where he puts himself in his own stories. It's fine.
Yeah, he would have done that, sure.
And that's pretty much what Alan Wake is kind of about. It's like it's Alan Wake in one of his own stories, or is he? Who knows what's going on? It's one of those kind of things. So, still fun. I still enjoy it. But if you did not like the Alan Wake, if you played it originally, it's not like they've done anything to really change it. Like mechanically, it still has stuff that annoys the crap out of me. Like, hey, Alan, just maybe you should replace those cigarette cartons that you have for lungs. So you can run more than 3 steps before you get tired, especially when you should have adrenaline pumping through your system because there's some crazy tornado thing trying to like kill you that you're running away from. It's like, dude, it'll suck, but you can go a little bit farther. Come on. It's one of those things, why they put it in there because they're trying to keep the tension up for like the stuff when something's chasing you, but it just gets frustrating sometimes because the balance is a little too far on the annoying side, at least for me. And it was even way back when I played it originally. They haven't changed any of that because they're just like, now we'll make it look better is pretty much all they've done to it.
Yeah, and that's fine. They don't have to change much of it for me. I mean,
it's like what? It's a $30 game, so it's not like they're charging $60 for it again. So cool.
Yeah,
It's definitely worth $30.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. I also played quite a bit more of Kena Bridge of Spirits, which is a fun, kind of mostly chill game. I mean, there's still combat in it, but it's delightful. Because you have cute rot, which I don't know why you call it rot, but that's what they called it.
Yeah.
So those little dudes are called rot. So yay, cool.
Okay.
Who knew before playing it that rot would be cute?
Yeah, really.
But I've done kind of like most of like the areas, and I think I'm going for the final spirit. I think is the next area I'm doing. I'm not sure how involved or not it is, because it seems like based on my map that there's not as much stuff there. So I might be close to the end of the game. I might not. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
I've got all of the powers and stuff unlocked, and most of my stuff is upgraded, so I'm guessing I'm close to the end. So maybe I'll turn it on next time and I'll be like, hey, it's an hour I've got left. Who knows?
Yeah, you'll pull an Eric.
It's more than 15 minutes. Especially if I'm going to go get all the collectibles I haven't gotten yet.
Well,
There's definitely plenty more gameplay in there, but story-wise, I think I'm pretty close to the end. And then the last thing I played is a thing on Game Pass called Lost Words Beyond the Page. I think it's on a lot of platforms at this point, but it's kind of mostly a narrative game told through 2D platformer kind of thing. So it has sort of two gameplay arenas, I guess. You have basically what is literally a journal from a girl who I can't remember how old she is, like 8, 10, something like that. And the page is there, and you have a little like character that's running on the words and jumping, and then there's some spots where you can like drag words to fill in the blank, and then you have a little bit of choice in quotes for that. It's not really affecting the narrative too much other than flavor. And then she's also writing kind of a story, like a fantasy story, and then there's some parts where you're playing in that story as the character of that story. And it mirrors and parallels things with the story. So like whatever's happening to this girl in quote real life is kind of coming out in the game as her kind of dealing with things that happen and coping with things. I can't remember how long the timeline for it is. It's been a bit since I finished it. But it's kind of like a little bit of a game about dealing with grief and how this like girl does that through like the journal and writing it out and talking about her grandmother in this case. And then also what happens in her story as she's kind of exploring with that also ties in. And then there's parts where like, oh, something happens she doesn't want to write, and they're doing like weird things with the mechanics. They also have when you're in the story, you get magic powers that are based on words. So you have like a word, I'm trying to remember what they are now, like fire, basically. If you had a word that said fire, you could set things on fire with it. Or lift, so if you drag it over some certain interactable thing, because there's only certain things that'll work, they kind of glow blue in the environment, and it'll lift it up. And so they have some little bits of puzzle things in there, but there's not a ton of exploration. They have a few collectibles off the main path, but mostly it's just like you're going through the main path and it's telling a story as you go. There's narrative, sometimes words will show up on screen, and it's all really nice, colorful art style, and it's really, really kind of just a simple game. It took me not too long to beat it, maybe, I don't know, 3-4 hours total. I'd have to go look, but it made me cry. And it's a very simple game that made me cry. It's like, wow, that was way more powerful than I expected when I clicked on this game. I just thought the art looked cool. But it told a moving story, so it was like awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
It's Rihanna Pratchett wrote the game. So she's done stuff like the Tomb Raider reboots and some other stuff that I can't remember off the top of my head now.
Yeah.
So she knows what she's doing. So even on a simple game like this, it was just like, yeah, it was really well told. It was nice, and it's not like super long, so you can be like, hey, I had a fun story, and well, some parts of it not as fun, more depressing or sad. But then I finished it and it was done. It's not like a 80-hour JRPG that makes no sense.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it was really good. If you're into kind of like a little indie game, it's well worth downloading. Cool. If it looks interesting from the little trailer, go ahead and play it.
Yeah. And if you have Game Pass, why not? Is that...
Well, yeah, it was a Game Pass game for sure. So I wouldn't have played it otherwise.
Right. Is that Xbox and PC or just was it? Did you play it on Xbox?
I think it's both. I played it on Xbox, but I think it's both.
All right. I didn't look
because
to
it's
see where
on.
you played it.
It's definitely on Steam, so I'm assuming it's on PC Game Pass as well.
Probably, yeah. It makes sense. So, all right, Eric, you're up.
Alrighty. So let's see. Get the list. I played some more Curse of the Dead Gods. Talked about that before. It's a roguelike. I'm actually pretty good at that, surprisingly. Actually got a lot further than I thought I was going to be able to. So that's good. I think I made it to like the second tier. It's not a long game, but it's easy to play. Pretty easy with a controller. Oh, I tried some Hades. I'm still terrible at that game. But I managed to, I think, beat the first boss in like 3 or 4 runs, and before on PC it took me like 15 tries.
Wow.
So, do a little bit better. I don't know, I have this roguelike kick. I also played Dandy Ace, which is also a roguelike, but it's like an isometric view. There's no, it starts like a magician. We got it for review. You like have like card tricks, and I don't know, you can do stuff with fireworks and lay traps. It's kind of interesting, but the dodge mechanics are kind of poor. So, I don't know. Like Hades and Curse of the Dead Gods, you can actually dodge and maneuver and get behind enemies. Dandy Ace, I don't know, it's not really. They don't really have that. It's there, but it's not very well executed.
Yeah.
It kind of, and it's definitely a little bit more challenging. The controls are a little bit funky, but a little bit of a review from me coming soon on that. I played some Blood Roots. That is on Game Pass. That is an interesting game. It is pretty much you just go through these levels and slaughter stuff, and you're this like I want to say like a mountain man, but you can pick up weapons in the environment. Anything can be a weapon. Has like cell shaded graphics, just beat the crap out of things. It's pretty funny. Light little puzzle elements. I don't know why I randomly played it. I was looking for stuff to just fill 10 minutes of time.
Yeah.
I tried some
kind of like a fantasy Hotline Miami from the trailer.
Yeah, kind of. The music's not as good though. I like Hotline Miami.
I mean, Hotline Miami has some pretty great music, so you're gonna have to do pretty well to compete there.
Yeah.
I tried Castlevania Harmony of Despair. I've never played it before. That was only on 360, right? Back in the day.
Yeah, I think so.
That is
360 only. It's
a co-op Castlevania game. It has you get to see all the map at once. You're really tiny on the screen.
Yeah.
It's fun. It can be fun with other people. It's not very much fun by yourself.
No.
You get stuck.
Yeah.
I got stuck. I also played Chernobylite. Did I say that right? Yeah. Dennis had reviewed that before. We got the code for Series S. It's interesting. It's probably not really for me, mostly because of the like the base building part. I have no interest in that at all, and I'm just not interested in that sort of thing. It kind of reminds me a little bit like Fallout 4, a little bit with like Metro. So doing some missions. I played it for like 3 hours. You're doing missions. You're in the side of Chernobyl, and it has some like horror sci-fi elements, but it plays a lot like a shooter. The base building stuff is easy. It's just like Fallout 4. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but I'm just not interested in it. That being said, it is an interesting game. The combat's good. Resource gathering and like finding people is interesting. It looks very muddy on Series S. It does not look good.
Yeah, I thought there was a Series S and X upgrade for it, but it doesn't.
The detail, the environment just looks like.
Yeah.
But it's
weird.
No, it's not.
Because like the screenshots are like when you see it on Steam are like really nice, but then when you start playing it, it's not as. Because it was the same way on PC where it just didn't seem that as impressive as they kind of marketed it to be.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It does do, and I haven't read your review yet, Dennis, but I think it does a pretty good job of blending genres. Like I think it like straddles the line of a couple things. It does a pretty good job of making it like got base building plus like an FPS. Plus, we're going to throw in some scary elements. I'm like, okay, you're doing a pretty good job of this for now. I know it's only been like 3 hours.
I just wish there were more of the scary elements because when you look at and not just because I'm a horror fan, but just because when you look at the marketing, it's just a lot of it emphasizes the horror, but then when you play it, it just seems very skewed and more tailored towards the more military aspect of it. So
yeah, I was trying to think like. I think like Metro Last Light, both those games were more scary for me than like Metro Exodus.
For sure. Yeah.
Metro Exodus, I was like, yeah, get my guns, I'm blasting monsters. And Last Light, I'm like, all right, by yourself in the subway,
Yeah,
nothing around.
Be a lot
What's
more
that noise?
cautious.
Yeah, but it's been interesting. I'll keep playing it, keep feeling out, and I'll definitely write a review in the next week or so. I also picked up Cruise and Blast. I don't know. Do any of us have that, or is it just me?
No, I think it's just you. I almost picked it up today. Best Buy has it for
$30,
and it's got a
$10
gift card with it.
Do it. It's just like Cruising Exotica or Cruising World.
Is it?
100%.
I've heard good things.
No need to change the formula. It's a great formula.
Yeah.
It's kind of short. It does have some of the classic tracks you can race, but the career mode is very short. Like maybe it's like 6 or 7 cups, and that's about it. Yeah. You can unlock some cool stuff. There's some fun vehicles. It's fun to do tricks and knock people out and stuff. And my wife was kind of interested in playing it with me too. So it's got co-op.
Yeah.
It's flashy.
Dennis played it, or Danny was telling me about it the other day. They played it Friday nights or game night at their house, so they play games with the kid, and that was what he said it was great. So I
got it for $40, and it came with a $10 gift card. But if you can get it for $30, a $10 gift card, I would say get it. It's a good enough buy at $30.
I thought about it. I noticed it was. I saw the cheap ass post today, and I was like, I've heard good things. Maybe I'll get that. I mean, I don't shop at Best Buy often, but if I got a $10 gift card, I'll go back.
Yeah, it's colorful, fun. It reminds me a lot of like San Francisco Rush. There's all like little shortcut collectibles. Oh man, more so than the original arcade games. But I
love San Francisco Rush so much.
Yeah, me too. Please remake that. But I don't know who owns that. Whoever bought Midway owns that property.
Midway, yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I don't know who
has
bought
it.
Midway.
But that is it.
Oh, okay.
Short and sweet. But I've been playing lots, so I don't have too much else to say.
Cool. Let's get into some of the news. Not a ton of news. There was an interview with Sony's boss, Jim Ryan, that I thought was kind of funny, and it kind of made the rounds this week, that he wants PlayStation games to reach hundreds of millions of people.
I just have to shake my head at this and how just dumb it is, because it's like him obviously like, I want more people to play so I can make more money, even though he's not saying that. And he's comparing it to like music and movies have quote almost limitless audience.
Well, hey,
I'm like, there's a reason for that. They don't have specific devices that you can only play your stuff on that one thing.
There's 2 ways to really fix this. 1, put all your games on PC day one. That will help. Yep. 2, make a Game Pass-like service that has your games on it day one and have it streaming on any device like Game Pass does. And guess what? You'll reach hundreds of millions of people, because Phil Spencer came out a couple of days later and said, hey, guess what? Our analytics show we touch hundreds of millions of people with our games because we offer this, and this.
Or let's go even a step further and just be like, hey, all video games can be played on this one thing or on everything or whatever. It's less like specific devices, because like there's so many different devices that can play music. There's so many different ways you can watch movies and things at this point, that like games have a much narrower focus because you can only play them in certain places.
Right. And I don't know. I don't understand when Sony's, when PlayStation's president comes out and says something like that, and then the company does totally the opposite things.
You know what I love? It's like, I don't mean to cut you off, but just it's like, I miss people like Jack Tretton or Sean Layden, who like whenever they came out, you were excited to see them. Phil Spencer's the same way. You're excited to see the guy, even for just talking purely business. It's just like, you know what? Even though I don't understand what he's saying, I'm on his side. But then Jack Ryan comes out, and you just can't help but put your hands up and go, "It's this guy again." Like, what is he this time? It's just gonna grind my gears and like, get this dude out of here.
Well, what?
I mean, if it was Jack Ryan, that'd be awesome. That's a Tom Clancy.
But which Jack Ryan do you want? Do you want the Harrison Ford?
Any of them?
Ryan?
It doesn't matter. It's better than Jim Ryan. All of them at once.
Okay, all right.
Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan before they make another Splinter Cell. Watch.
I'm sure. My thing is, and I think maybe it was the last time we recorded. I didn't put it in the show notes, but Sony bought Blue Point. They bought they bought another company. We were talking about it before the show, Nathaniel.
The one that did the ports.
Yeah, the one.
Nix's Software.
Yeah. And so you buy those two companies, and when Sony buys a company, they are locked to the PlayStation. When Microsoft buys a company, they are locked to Xbox, PC, maybe PS5, depending on what we've seen with Deathloop.
Yeah.
Those contracts were
already
in.
Different.
No, but I mean,
they already existed.
They already existed, but I mean, Microsoft could have paid the money and went, "No, we're just canceling that contract. Here's a big bunch of money."
I mean, I highly doubt they could have done that. There's no way, because those contracts, especially for something like Deathloop or whatever, that it was so close to coming out. There's no way they could have been like, "Oh no, it's suddenly not on PlayStation." That wouldn't happen.
But at any rate,
you have the flexibility of the IPs also.
Right.
Like Cuphead, Ori, like end up showing up on Switch way later down the line.
Right.
Also.
Yeah. But when Microsoft does it, people frown upon it. When Sony does it, it's a brilliant move. It's the best thing ever. It's it's such a smart move for them to do that. And I don't understand that mentality, because they're the same people who cry that when Microsoft does it, it's taking companies away from PlayStation. And it's a terrible thing. I don't know.
You've got the exact opposite people out there too. You're just paying attention to the one because it annoys you, and so that's why it gets stuck in your head, because that particular is what annoys you. And then if it were the other way, thing annoyed you, that'd be the ones you'd be seeing all the time, right?
I guess.
No one batted an eye with Insomnia either. Insomniac, sorry, and like they're a massive company, that and Sunset Overdrive was not a bad game, but they do have a history on PlayStation, and
I was gonna say, I think that's because for all intents and purposes, for a long time they were pretty much a Sony studio, or at least it feels that way, because their most visible thing was a Sony franchise for so long that. Yeah.
And that whole thing, none of it bothers me to the point. It just bothers me that there's this weird double standard out there, and that's what grinds my gears. And then you see Jim Ryan come out and say something like that. It's like, well, this is what your fan base doesn't want, that, because when Microsoft does it, it's a terrible thing. But Microsoft is doing way more freedom of games. Like I said, I have an Xbox One upstairs, and I don't have to download a game to it, and I could play just like I'm sitting down here with just as good of quality game, streaming and all that, and it worked fine.
Well, it seems like they're treating their studios that they're buying also just a lot better. Also, they have the financial freedom now to kind of do whatever they want. I've heard no complaints from, obviously, Double Fine that just came out with Psychonauts 2, which a lot of people are saying a potentially game of the year. No complaints from Ninja Theory. They're working on Hellblade 2, getting all the money from that.
Well, and Double Fine came out the other day and said if they hadn't gotten bought by Microsoft and Microsoft put the money in them, Psychonauts 2 wouldn't have been the game that it turned out to be. Of
course not.
And because Microsoft just went, here's the key to my wallet. You could just spend as much money as you want, and take the lock off of it and do what you need to do. Yeah, and it paid off. Because who would have ever thought that Psychonauts would be considered game of the year? I mean, it was a great game on Xbox. I liked it. I never thought it was game of the year material, but here we are, and it's like, all right. And they still haven't brought out Halo and Forza yet. So, they still got more games coming out before the end of the year. Now, I don't think Halo will be out by the time Game of the Year awards will be handed out. I think it'll be after that. But
it depends on the site. Some places do it early. Some places don't even do them till January.
Well, you got the Jeff Keighley award show is in December, the first part of December, and that's the one that everybody.
Yeah, well, that one's like kind of like like the Oscars, where it's like it's a year period, but it doesn't line up with the calendar year. It's like okay, through whatever kind of time period they set for that. I can't remember. It's like if it ends in mid-November or what. I don't know.
Yeah. But and I said it on Twitter the other day. What a time! I can't remember a time in the 35 years that I've been playing games, 40 years. Golly, I'm almost 47. So yeah, 40 years. I'll be 46 next year, and I started playing when I was 5 or 6 years old. So 40 years of games that I've been playing. 40 that such a time of riches when it comes to games, as far as quality, no matter what platform you play on. If you play on PC, if you play on Nintendo, if you're playing on a Sony product, an Xbox product, whatever, there are so many good games right now that we're overly, I hate to say it, we're overly blessed, because it just sounds ridiculous.
I mean, it's been that way for over a decade at this point.
I mean, it's
because
just
like so many things come out that are high quality in both AAA or indie studios and across the board.
Well, and
that you've got plenty to choose from.
And now that Microsoft's kind of got their crap together with stuff, the Xbox One days were very dreary on that system, but now it's, they've turned it around, and it's like, if you're an Xbox guy, you've got great games to play. If you're a PlayStation guy, you got great games to play. If you're a Nintendo guy, you got great games to play. If you happen to have all three systems, then you've got too much to play.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah, and PC, of course, but that's always a given. PC's always
PC has so many things. You have to almost like weed through all the crap that's on Steam and be like, no, stop suggesting all these things that are made in freaking RPG Studio. I don't want all of them. There's like 5,000 of those every day.
Yeah, there is a lot of those.
Game Maker games, man. They're almost a virus on Steam. It seems like they just show up all the time.
3, please. I'm tired of this.
New World hits 1 million players on day one. Server capacity was increased, which some of the queues that I saw people posting for New World was they were in a queue of like 9,000 people waiting to play. It was going to be like...
It's like this every time there's an MMO or a multiplayer game that just comes out day one.
I tell you what, though, from what I've heard from most people who played this game, this was the smoothest rollout of a game as far as the game goes. Once you got into the game and played it, there was no disconnect from servers, there was no glitches, there was no weird things
I
happening.
beg to differ.
Well, I mean,
I heard a whole bunch of stuff about glitches and things for New World. Plus, people just don't like it. Some people do, so I don't know. It'll be fine, but it's not gonna like last forever.
No, but I think you're having a mass exodus from World of Warcraft. Those people are looking for something different, whether it's Final Fantasy or
possibly helped New World is it got enough buzz kind of on its own, but then with people currently not liking World of Warcraft for, the reasons that are this time, because there's always reasons it goes up and down with that game. People love it, people hate it, whatever. But so like they're on and off of like, oh, I don't like my WoW right now. Let me try this one. So they probably got quite a few players at least trying it from that.
I enjoyed the beta a lot. I just didn't buy it because at this point I'm probably not going to have time to play it with everything else that I'm playing, and then my Sea of Thieves addiction. It's not helping any. So it's like, I really don't have time to sit down and play another, MMO or MMO style.
I mean, that's why I don't play MMOs, period. Like I've played, the one I've played the most of would have been Neverwinter, and I probably played maybe 50 total hours of that, which for MMO hours, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a drop.
We played Warcraft for years. I mean, we played Warcraft for years, and I loved every minute of it. And I love that MMO thing. I played Final Fantasy for about a year. I've dipped my toes in every MMO just because I like to see what's out there and what they do different. This one, New World, I really liked, and I thought, man, I might really keep my pre-order. But then it was like, I've put 60 hours into Sea of Thieves, and 35 in all, and three of the guilds. So it's like I'm almost a pirate legend. So it's like, no, I'm not going to have time to do another MMO. Plus, when I'm on the road, it's just impossible for me to get MMO time.
I mean, you can only really have one super time sink game, because if you try to split your time between 2 or 3 of those, then you just don't enjoy your time in any of them.
Yeah.
So,
and I've tried to do that before, and it was just too much. But yeah. So, another interesting headline: Apple made over $8 billion on gaming in 2019. That was more money.
That's not anything new, like
that was more money than Sony, Nintendo, Xbox, and Activision all combined that year.
Could it be because there's an infinite number more iPhones in the world than there are game consoles?
Yep. And this is why this is why Phil Spencer is so wanting to get wants to get xCloud out there on these devices, because if you've already got a subscription to Game Pass and you have a phone that it works on, why would you not try or play? I understand some games are just not ideal to play on mobile phones. Sea of Thieves, but some first-person shooters, but like a JRPG, that would be great. These little, like we said, the one game, what was it? Last Stop. Games like that, little indie games. Yeah, I mean it's great, and I've done it, and it worked fine.
That's cool. You'll never make money on phones with those. What makes money is all those like $2 games or free games that have all the free-to-play stuff in there, and then Apple gets a cut of it, and that's how they make a ton of their money. Because there's just lots and lots and lots of those time-seek games. We're just standing in line somewhere, you want to like waste some time. That like plenty of games will scratch that itch on mobile for you, whereas like most console games, it just takes too much time to get into it. That even if you can play it on your phone, you're not gonna be doing it when you're standing in line at the grocery store or something. So.
Yeah.
You're not going to be blasting all them candies or doing whatever stupid mobile RPG game is being advertised on YouTube that month.
Right. But, it just cracks me up when people don't take mobile gaming as a serious thing. And it's like, it makes money. That's all that matters.
It's just a different genre, I guess, even though there's plenty of different genres on mobile, but it's different kinds of games do well on mobile because it's just a different audience and just a different device, right?
Yep.
So,
and then I put the link in the notes for the teardown of the OLED dock with the 4K 60. So if anybody wants to check that out, there's a whole YouTube video where the guy tore it down and pointed out this and that and that and this. So it was an interesting video to watch and an interesting article. So, but yeah, so that's all I got. I mean, wasn't a whole lot going on the past 2 weeks. It's been kind of quiet.
Mainly the OLED is really what's kind of been the main focus.
I'm telling you, man, I was kind of skeptical at first, and I almost canceled my pre-order, and then somebody bought my Switch Lite, so I went, all right, well that's half of the new thing, so and now my other Switch is going to sell for more than I paid, what I paid difference for this, so it's like, all right. But yeah, that screen is nice. I mean, the OLED screen on my Vita is nice, but you could tell that 2011 OLEDs versus a 2020 LED, the differences in them, how that technology has come, as far as quality. I like it a lot. If you're a handheld gamer, and you have, especially even if you haven't bought a Switch, I don't know who hasn't at this point, but if you haven't bought a Switch, that's the one I would buy for $50 more. Just do it. And, I mean, it's got more memory on it, like I use the memory on it anyway, but, 64 instead of 32. Woo, that's...
Or if you don't want handheld, buy a Series S Xbox and get Game Pass, and you have that too. There's lots of good, different, price range options out there right now if you can get a hold of them. That's the hard part. It doesn't matter which range it is. It's just hard to get them.
I have still yet to see a PS5 or a Series X in store. I did see a Series S the other day at a Walmart. That's the first time in a couple weeks that I've seen that. But I don't know if anybody's been back. I always walk back through the electronics. I never really go back because I'm at Walmart because there's something I quote unquote want. I just kind of walk back when I'm walking through the store and just see if they got consoles. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but you know how they always keep their consoles underneath like the little kiosk thing where they have the dummy console, stuff like that. They are now blacked out. So you cannot see in there if there is anything in that cabinet or not. It's totally blacked out. So it could be full of PS5s that they have sold online that people are doing store pickup.
Yeah, what you don't know actually is they've just seen you walking by a lot and they thought you looked shady, so they're just going to black them out. Because of you.
But these are in Walmarts everywhere. I haven't been in some of these Walmarts before that they had. I just thought
they just know, weird. John. They just know.
I guess I don't know. I just thought that was really weird. I was like, wow, they have blacked out where the consoles are at. I guess because Like, I've noticed some of the drops that a lot of the stores have done lately, they've been in-store pickup only. So I'm guessing if they have to store those consoles out there, they could probably get bugged to death about people asking, I want to buy that, I want to buy that. Well, it's not for sale, so...
I don't know why they'd even put it there. If it's in-store pickup, just have them up at the service desk or in the back, one of the two.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. The other thing, here's something else that maybe somebody can tell me. So, you all know the new Space Jam movie came out.
I know that it exists, and people are delusional about Space Jam and have been since the first one came out. But yes, continue.
Right. So they have LeBron is the star, and they made toys, and they made a 12-inch action figure of LeBron with a head, very articulated. They had to remove the heads in the Walmart stores because people were stealing them. I saw LeBron James toys locked in cabinets with no heads on them and a sign that says, if you buy this toy, the head is in electronics. Please stop by the checkout in electronics to get the head for this action figure. And I went,
you need to replace those heads with like pumpkin heads or something now because it's October. That would be great.
But I'm like, why are people stealing the head off an action figure? I don't understand.
Because they can.
I guess. I don't know. But you have to. It's sad that you have to lock up your LeBron James cartoony action figure because people keep stealing the heads off of it. I thought that was so weird. It was like.
No one realized Sleepy Hollow was the prequel to Space Jam.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we are going to call that a show. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. Like I say, if you want to join us live, I always try to tweet it out. Follow us on @GL_podcast on Twitter. That way you'll know when we go live. And I try to tweet out a couple hours early, even though Restream is being dumb tonight for some reason, and all the streams are all jacked up, and it's not my end this time, it's their end, and it's not my fault.
Pointing fingers.
Yeah, I'm pointing fingers. I'm throwing down. So
point toes instead. They won't expect it.
Exactly. So we should be having a show in the next 2 weeks. I don't see why not. I think next week's when I go out on Sunday. So yeah, we'll figure it out anyway. We should be back in 2 weeks. Like I always say, if you're a podcast listener, you'll never know because it'll just appear in your podcatcher when it goes live. So you'll never know what day we were recording on. So, all right. Well, has anybody got anything else before we say sayonara?
Nope.
All right. Well, once again, guys, thanks a lot for hanging out with us, and we will catch you all next show.
Take care.
See ya.